In an unprecedented turn of events, the world stands aghast as the unthinkable unfolds before our eyes. Jair Bolsonaro, the controversial former president of Brazil, has been exposed in a sinister plot to overthrow his political rival, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. This shocking revelation has sent shockwaves across the globe, igniting a firestorm of outrage and disbelief. The audacity of Bolsonaro's scheme is nothing short of impressive, as he brazenly attempts to dismantle the very fabric of democracy in Brazil. The details of this nefarious plan are as chilling as they are audacious. Bolsonaro, driven by an insatiable thirst for power, orchestrated a clandestine operation aimed at toppling Lula and seizing control of the nation. This is not just a political maneuver, it is a direct assault on the democratic principles that Brazil holds dear. The implications of such a plot are staggering, threatening to plunge the country into chaos and uncertainty. As the layers of this conspiracy are peeled back, it becomes clear that Bolsonaro did not act alone. Behind closed doors, a web of betrayal was spun by those closest to him. Trusted allies and confidants, once thought to be loyal, have been unmasked as co-conspirators in this treacherous scheme. The betrayal runs deep, shaking the foundations of Bolsonaro's inner circle and leaving a trail of deceit in its wake. Explosive documents have surfaced, revealing the dark secrets that Bolsonaro desperately tried to bury. These damning pieces of evidence lay bare the extent of his machinations, exposing a calculated and ruthless plan to undermine the democratic process. The revelations are nothing short of explosive, leaving no room for doubt about Bolsonaro's intentions. In the shadows, Bolsonaro played the role of puppet master, manipulating key figures to execute his plan with precision. His ability to bend others to his will is both terrifying and awe-inspiring, as he weaves a complex tapestry of influence and control. The world watches in disbelief as the extent of his manipulation comes to light, leaving a trail of shattered trust and broken alliances. The international community has not remained silent in the face of such treachery. Global leaders have united in their condemnation of Bolsonaro's actions, denouncing his plot as a serious threat to democracy and stability. The outrage is palpable, as nations rally together to hold Bolsonaro accountable for his brazen attempt to seize power. The evidence against Bolsonaro is irrefutable, a smoking gun that leaves no room for denial. The coup attempt is laid bare for all to see, a stark reminder of the lengths to which some will go in their pursuit of power. The world watches with bated breath as the fallout from this revelation unfolds, knowing that the consequences will be far-reaching and profound. As the truth comes to light, Brazil finds itself in turmoil, a nation betrayed by those it once trusted. The calls for Bolsonaro's arrest and prosecution grow louder, echoing across the globe as justice demands to be served. The reckoning is at hand, and the world waits to see how this explosive saga will unfold, knowing that its impact will be felt far beyond Brazil's borders. Following the shocking discovery of Bolsonaro's plan to overthrow Lula, attention is now turning to the dark movements brewing behind the scenes. In an unexpected twist, it is revealed that the betrayal came not only from external enemies, but from within his own inner circle. A betrayal that shakes the foundations of trust and loyalty. The details are chilling. Trusted people, those who shared crucial moments with Bolsonaro, became key players in a game of deceit and betrayal. These individuals, once considered unwavering allies, are now pointed out as the architects of a plot that exposed the Brazilian leader's vulnerability. The betrayal was hatched in secret meetings, where strategies were discussed to undermine the stability of the government and facilitate Lula's rise. Leaks of private conversations and confidential documents have laid bare the extent of the betrayal. There is talk of clandestine meetings in unexpected places, where plans were drawn up to destabilize Bolsonaro's leadership from within. The betrayal was not only political, but also personal, with lifelong friends becoming covert enemies. This scandal has generated a wave of outrage and shock. Confidence in Bolsonaro's leadership is shaken, as the country faces the stark reality that those he trusted most were actively working for his downfall. The betrayal of his inner circle has not only weakened his position, but has exposed a web of deceit that threatens to crumble everything he once built. The nation watches in amazement as events unfold, as the betrayal of those closest to Bolsonaro becomes the central topic of discussion. The question that remains in the air is, who else is involved in this dark web of betrayals? The answer could change the course of Brazil's political history forever. In an unexpected twist that has left the world speechless, explosive documents have come to light, revealing the dark secrets that Bolsonaro desperately tried to bury. These documents, leaked from the depths of his administration, expose a web of corruption and manipulation that defies all logic and decency. The magnitude of these revelations is so shocking that it has shaken the foundations of Brazilian politics and put the former president's closest allies in check. The documents, which detail Bolsonaro's clandestine maneuvers in detail, show how he attempted to subvert the democratic order to cling to power. It was a meticulously orchestrated plan, designed to undermine Lula's legitimacy and sow chaos in the country. The evidence is irrefutable. From bribes to high-ranking officials to the manipulation of key institutions, everything was calculated to ensure his permanence in power at any cost. The leak of these documents has unleashed an unprecedented political storm. Citizens, outraged and betrayed, are demanding answers and justice. The pressure on the authorities to act is immense, and the clamor for a thorough and transparent investigation grows with each passing day. The shadow of betrayal hangs over Brazil, and the world watches in amazement as this political drama unfolds. Amidst this turmoil, the voices of international leaders are being raised, strongly condemning Bolsonaro's actions. The global community cannot remain indifferent to such an affront to democracy. Brazil's reputation is at stake, and the need to restore confidence in its institutions is more urgent than ever. This scandal has exposed not only Bolsonaro's excessive ambition, but also the fragility of a system that must be protected at all costs. The story is unfolding with an intensity that gives no respite, and the outcome of this saga promises to be as explosive as its beginnings. The truth has come to light, and there is no turning back. In an unexpected twist that has left the world speechless, Jair Bolsonaro, the controversial former president of Brazil, has been unmasked as the puppet master behind a Machiavellian plan to overthrow his successor, Lula da Silva. In a web of manipulation and deceit, Bolsonaro moved the key pieces of the Brazilian political chessboard, using his influence to orchestrate a plot that threatens to plunge the country into chaos. From the shadows, Bolsonaro wove a web of complicity, manipulating key figures within his circle of trust. These individuals, blinded by loyalty or fear, became pawns in a sinister game, executing orders that sought to destabilize Lula's government. The magnitude of this betrayal is chilling, revealing a level of corruption and disloyalty that defies all logic. The former president, known for his incendiary rhetoric and his disregard for democratic norms, did not hesitate to use psychological manipulation tactics to ensure the cooperation of his allies. Promises of power, veiled threats, and the exploitation of personal ambitions were the tools he employed to maintain control over those who could execute his plan. The revelation of this plot has shaken the foundations of Brazilian politics, exposing the fragility of a system that, until now, had resisted the onslaught of corruption. The international community is watching with shock and concern, as world leaders strongly condemn Bolsonaro's actions, demanding a strong response to safeguard democracy in Brazil. This scandal not only threatens the stability of the South American country, but also raises serious questions about the integrity of its institutions. Bolsonaro's manipulation of key figures is an alarming reminder of how power can be corrupted and used for dark purposes, threatening to unravel the democratic fabric of a nation. The story continues to unfold, with new revelations promising to keep the world in suspense. The pressure on Bolsonaro and his accomplices mounts, as the Brazilian judiciary prepares to face one of the biggest challenges in its recent history. The question that remains in the air is whether Brazil will be able to recover from this monumental betrayal and restore confidence in its political system. The international community is on fire. News of Bolsonaro's treacherous plot has shaken the foundations of global diplomacy. Leaders around the world have raised their voices in a chorus of condemnation, furiously denouncing the audacity of the former Brazilian president. The betrayal has not only been a low blow to Brazil, but a direct attack on the democratic principles that sustain free nations. From the most influential capitals, leaders have expressed their indignation. The European Union, in an unprecedented statement, has described the attempted coup as an intolerable affront to democracy. In Washington, the president has called an urgent meeting of the National Security Council, stressing that the stability of Latin America is crucial for world peace. It is not just Brazil that is concerned. The echo of this betrayal resonates in every corner of the planet. International organizations have demanded decisive action. The UN has called for an extraordinary session to address the crisis, while the OAS has launched an exhaustive investigation into the regional implications of the plot. The pressure on Bolsonaro is intensifying, and his isolation on the international stage is becoming more and more evident. Amid this diplomatic storm, the streets of Brazil are seething with outrage. Mass demonstrations are demanding justice, and the popular clamor for accountability is not ceasing. The international community is watching closely, aware that the outcome of this crisis could redefine the political future of an entire region. The global condemnation is a stark reminder that acts of treachery will not go unpunished. History will judge Bolsonaro, and the entire world is determined not to allow democracy to be trampled by the unbridled ambition of one man. The fight for truth and justice has begun, and there will be no rest until justice is done. The evidence is overwhelming, and the entire world is in shock. Leaked documents, witness testimonies, and secret recordings have come to light, revealing Jair Bolsonaro's Machiavellian plan to overthrow Lula. This is not a simple rumor. It is irrefutable proof of an attempted coup that shakes the foundations of Brazilian democracy. The evidence is so overwhelming that it leaves no room for doubt. Bolsonaro was willing to do anything to cling to power, even betraying his own country. The documents, obtained from confidential sources, detail clandestine meetings and secret conversations in which Bolsonaro and his inner circle discussed strategies to destabilize Lula's government. The plans ranged from manipulating information to mobilizing paramilitary forces. Each page of these documents is a slap in the face of democracy, a chilling reminder of how far he was willing to go to fulfill his ambitions. But it is not just paper that incriminates Bolsonaro. Witnesses have come forward, risking their lives to tell the truth. Their accounts are harrowing, describing an environment of fear and coercion, where loyalty was bought and dissent was brutally punished. Audio recordings, leaked to the press, capture Bolsonaro in moments of rage, ordering actions that defy all logic and morality. The international community is watching in horror. Leaders from around the world have strongly condemned this attempted subversion, demanding justice and accountability. The pressure on the Brazilian government is immense, and the question on everyone's mind is, how will Brazil respond to this unprecedented betrayal? Meanwhile, the Brazilian people are in a state of turmoil. The streets are seething with outrage, and the voices calling for truth and justice are multiplying. The nation is on the brink of an abyss, and the outcome of this story is yet to be written. The evidence is there, clear as day, and the world is eagerly awaiting the moment when justice is done. In an unexpected and terrifying twist, Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's controversial former president, wove a web of lies so intricate that he managed to fool millions of people, manipulating public perception in his favor. From the start, his strategy was clear. Sow distrust and confusion, using disinformation tactics that rival those of the most oppressive regimes in history. With almost Machiavellian skill, Bolsonaro deployed a massive propaganda campaign, flooding social media and news outlets with fake news and conspiracy theories designed to discredit his opponents and consolidate his power. The scale of his deception was such that even those who once doubted his intentions found themselves caught in his web of falsehoods. Bolsonaro not only manipulated the narrative domestically, but also managed to project a distorted image of Brazil on the international stage, presenting himself as a strong and determined leader, while hiding his true plans to undermine democracy from within. As his plan moved forward, Bolsonaro did not hesitate to sacrifice his closest allies, using his inner circle as pawns in his power game. Empty promises and bought loyalties were the tools with which he built his empire of lies, leaving a trail of betrayal and disillusionment in his wake. The trust of the Brazilian people was mercilessly exploited, and those who dared to question his narrative were quickly silenced or discredited. The revelation of this web of deceit has left the world stunned. The scale of the fraud is so shocking that it has triggered a wave of global outrage, with international leaders strongly condemning Bolsonaro's actions. The truth, finally exposed, has shaken the foundations of Brazilian society, exposing the fragility of a system that was on the verge of collapse under the weight of one man's lies. At this critical moment, the question resonating across Brazil is, how could one leader deceive so many for so long? The answer, though complex, lies in Bolsonaro's ability to exploit social and political divisions, using fear and uncertainty as weapons to consolidate his power. Now, with the truth out in the open, the Brazilian people face the arduous task of rebuilding their nation, while the world watches intently, hoping that justice will prevail and that such a devastating web of lies will never again be allowed to threaten democracy. In an unexpected twist that has left the world speechless, a secret alliance has been revealed that shakes the foundations of Brazilian politics. Jair Bolsonaro, the controversial former president, has been unmasked in a dark pact with the country's most powerful elites. This agreement, kept in the shadows, had only one objective: to overthrow Lula and reinstate a regime that favored his personal and economic interests. The evidence is overwhelming. Leaked documents show clandestine meetings in luxurious offices, where meticulous plans were drawn up to manipulate the political and economic system. The names of influential businessmen, media moguls and high-level political figures appear on these lists, all united by a common purpose: to maintain their power at all costs. This pact is not only a betrayal of Brazilian democracy, but a direct attack on the will of the people. The elites, in their eagerness to control the destiny of the country, have shown that they are willing to trample on any ethical or moral principle. The magnitude of this conspiracy is such that it has provoked a wave of international indignation, with leaders from around the world strongly condemning these actions. The revelation of this alliance has unleashed a whirlwind of chaos and distrust. The streets of Brazil have become a hotbed of protests, with citizens demanding justice and transparency. The pressure on Bolsonaro and his accomplices grows every day, as the clamor for his arrest and prosecution resonates loudly in every corner of the country. This scandal not only threatens to destabilize Brazil, but also has the potential to trigger a global crisis. The international community is watching with concern, aware that the actions of Bolsonaro and his allies could have devastating repercussions beyond Brazil's borders. Amidst this tumult, Lula emerges as a symbol of resistance and hope. His triumphant return represents not only the downfall of Bolsonaro, but also the restoration of democracy and justice in Brazil. However, the road to recovery is long and arduous, and the country will have to confront the deep scars that this betrayal has left on its social and political fabric. The story continues to unfold, and the world eagerly awaits the outcome of this political drama that has captured everyone's attention. The truth has come out, and now, more than ever, it is imperative that justice be done. Chaos is breaking out in Brazil as Bolsonaro's sinister plan unravels before the eyes of the world. The nation, caught in a storm of uncertainty and betrayal, is faced with the devastating consequences of a plot that threatened to destroy its democracy. The streets, once filled with hope, are now witness to angry protests and a relentless clamor for justice. The population, deceived and manipulated, is in a state of shock and rage, demanding answers and accountability. The impact of the revelation is immediate and brutal. Institutions, reeling under the weight of corruption and mistrust, are struggling to maintain order as the country plunges into an abyss of political chaos. Bolsonaro's allies, once powerful and secure, are now forced to confront the reality of their actions, as the Brazilian people demand accountability. The international community is watching with shock and concern, strongly condemning the coup attempt and offering its support to Brazilian democracy. The repercussions of this scandal resonate far beyond Brazil's borders, threatening to destabilize the region and provoke a crisis of confidence in democratic systems around the world. Amidst this tumult, the figure of Lula emerges as a symbol of resistance and hope. His triumphant return, backed by popular acclaim, represents a ray of light in an otherwise bleak picture. However, the road to recovery is long and arduous, and the Brazilian people must remain vigilant to ensure that justice prevails and that those responsible for this attempted subversion are brought to justice. Brazil's story at this critical moment is a warning to the world. Democracy is fragile and must be protected with fervor and determination. Bolsonaro's downfall, while inevitable, is only the beginning of a process of healing and rebuilding that will require the concerted effort of a nation determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. In an unexpected turn of events that has left Brazil teetering on the edge of the abyss, the truth has finally come to light. The entire nation feels betrayed, plunged into chaos that seems to have no end. The revelation of Jair Bolsonaro's dark plans to overthrow Lula has shaken the foundations of Brazilian society, exposing a web of deceit and betrayal that has left millions of citizens in shock. The scale of the betrayal is immeasurable. Brazil, a country that has struggled for years to maintain its democracy, now faces an unprecedented crisis of confidence. The stunned population watches as the institutions that should protect them have been manipulated and corrupted from within. The feeling of helplessness is palpable, and outrage grows as more details come to light. The plot hatched by Bolsonaro and his allies has not only endangered the country's internal stability, but has also had repercussions internationally. The global community watches with concern as one of Latin America's largest economies teeters on the brink of political collapse. Voices of condemnation are rising from all corners of the world, demanding justice and accountability. Amidst this whirlwind of revelations, the Brazilian people find themselves at a crossroads. Trust in their leaders has been deeply eroded, and the demand for real, meaningful change is stronger than ever. The streets are filled with protesters clamoring for a better future, one in which corruption and betrayal have no place. Bolsonaro's betrayal has left a deep scar on the soul of Brazil. The nation now faces the monumental challenge of rebuilding its trust and its democracy. The truth has come to light, and with it, the opportunity for a new beginning. But the road to redemption will be long and arduous, and will require the joint effort of all Brazilians to heal the wounds of this historic betrayal. Tension in Brazil has reached a boiling point. The entire nation is on edge, and the cry for justice resonates in every corner of the country. The revelation of such a dark and treacherous plot has left the citizenry in a state of shock. Voices demanding the arrest and prosecution of Jair Bolsonaro are multiplying at a dizzying pace. The magnitude of his actions has left a deep scar on the social and political fabric of Brazil, and the demand for accountability is deafening. The Brazilian people, betrayed and enraged, have risen up with unstoppable force. The streets are filled with protesters clamoring for justice, demanding that Bolsonaro face the consequences of his actions. The pressure on the judicial authorities is immense, and the world is watching closely every move. The international community, horrified by the events, joins the chorus of voices calling for justice to be done. The evidence is overwhelming. Leaked documents, testimonies from close associates, and a trail of corruption that leaves no room for doubt. Impunity is no longer an option. Justice must prevail, and the people will not rest until they see Bolsonaro behind bars. History is being written right now, and the outcome of this saga will determine the future of Brazil. The pressure is palpable, and time is running out. Every day that passes without concrete measures being taken is another day of uncertainty and mistrust. The nation demands answers, and justice must act quickly and decisively. Bolsonaro's downfall is not just a matter of justice, but an urgent need to restore faith in Brazil's institutions and future. The clamor for justice will not stop. The nation is united in its demand that Bolsonaro face the consequences of his actions. History will not be lenient, and the Brazilian people will not forget. The moment of truth has arrived, and the entire world is watching. The entire world is reeling from the shocking revelation that Bolsonaro's actions have not only shaken Brazil, but threatened to destabilize the global order. In a turn of events that no one saw coming, Bolsonaro's audacious coup attempt has sent shockwaves across borders, leaving nations on high alert. The international community watches in horror as a leader, blinded by ambition and power, has put global stability in jeopardy. The fallout from this scandal is not limited to Brazil. World leaders from Washington to Berlin have been forced to reassess their diplomatic relations and security strategies. The shadow of uncertainty looms over global alliances, as governments wonder to what extent Bolsonaro's actions could inspire other authoritarian leaders to follow his example. The threat is real and palpable, a domino effect that could trigger an unprecedented international crisis. Global economies are also feeling the impact. Financial markets, always sensitive to political instability, have reacted with volatility, reflecting investors' fears of a possible economic collapse. Multinational companies, with interests in Brazil and beyond, are facing difficult decisions as they try to protect their assets in an increasingly unpredictable environment. Amidst this chaos, the voices of citizens around the world are rising in protest, demanding decisive action against Bolsonaro and his accomplices. The streets are filled with protesters clamoring for justice, while social media is ablaze with calls for action. The pressure on world leaders to act is immense, and the question on everyone's mind is, how will they respond? The situation is critical and time is running out. The international community must come together to confront this common threat, before Bolsonaro's actions trigger a crisis that could change the course of history. Global stability hangs in the balance, and the world is watching, waiting for decisive action to be taken to avert a disaster of epic proportions. In an unexpected twist that has left the world speechless, Lula's return to power marks the climax of a political saga that has shaken Brazil's foundations. The fall of Bolsonaro, a figure who once stood as a titan in Brazilian politics, is unfolding before our eyes with the force of a devastating hurricane. This is the outcome that no one saw coming, the final blow that seals the fate of a leader who sought to challenge the democratic order. Lula, the man who was once overthrown, has risen from the ashes with unstoppable force, symbolizing the hope and resilience of a people who refuse to be silenced. His return is not just a personal victory, but a triumph for democracy itself, a reminder that justice can prevail even in the darkest of times. Meanwhile, Bolsonaro faces the twilight of his political career, caught in a whirlwind of scandals and betrayals of his own making. His attempt to cling to power through sinister maneuvers and corrupt alliances has failed miserably, exposing the true nature of his regime. The nation, once divided, is now united in a unanimous clamor for justice, demanding accountability for the acts of treason that nearly brought the country to the brink. The world watches in awe and anticipation as Brazil rises from the ashes of conspiracy and corruption. Bolsonaro's downfall is not just a lesson for Brazilians, but a global warning about the dangers of leaders who put their personal ambitions before the well-being of their people. Lula, with his triumphant return, has not only defeated a formidable adversary, but has restored faith in the power of democracy to prevail over tyranny. This is a historic moment that will remain etched in the collective memory, a reminder that truth and justice always find their way, even when all seems lost. The history of Brazil has been changed forever, and the world cannot look away from this explosive and moving outcome.